Like a young cub, a girl named Alina Clover sleeps peacefully in her bed, the sun's reflection casting a dim glow across the room. Soon, she happily wakes up to greet the new day. She gets dressed and prepares for another day of work, determined to give it her all. In a Western European-style building, Alina works at the Eiffel counter as a guild receptionist. The equipment is state-of-the-art, appearing more futuristic than archaic, quite the contrast to the town's traditional look. Quest boards display available missions on digital panels, while holographic greetings hover over the receptionist's desk, welcoming adventurers. Alina enjoys her easygoing life behind the counter, wearing a cute uniform, helping people, and going home when her shift ends. She bows with a cheerful smile to each customer, but deep down she knows that things never go as smoothly as she hopes. Because what the rest of the world doesn't know is her true identity. She is the legendary adventurer, Executioner. In an instant, she appears in a more comfortable outfit, her face concealed beneath a hood. Summoning her large, mystical hammer, she charges forward. As the dragon breathes fire, she yells at it for making her work overtime. Dodging the flames, she leaps into action, cursing the creature as she prepares to strike it down. Back at the guild, another peaceful day unfolds. The hall is packed with adventurers waiting their turn to take on quests. Next in line is Gans the Raging Blade, a confident and well-known elite. Alina, already irritated by his presence, forces a polite smile as he approaches. The towering man slaps a paper onto the counter, declaring his intent to take on the floor boss of the Belfa underground ruins, the Hellflame Dragon. His booming voice catches everyone's attention. Alina scans the request and checks the details. Gans turns to address the crowd, declaring that they've spent too long being held back by dungeon creatures, forcing them to rely on Silver Sword, his prestigious guild. Alina, however, believes Silver Sword has been dragging its feet for too long. Keeping her focus on Gans, she informs him that he needs a second-hand license to take the quest. Gans scoffs, pointing to himself. "I'm part of Silver Sword, the top guild," he reminds her, assuming his presence alone should be proof of his identity. Internally, Alina is fuming. Of course, she knows who he is. She has to deal with insufferable adventurers like him every day. But rules are rules. It's to make sure you're qualified for the quest, she explains. Still not getting the memo, Gans removes his helmet and flashes a confident grin. Alina repeats herself. Undeterred, he rattles off his many titles, but she cuts him off. "Just give me your license so I can verify it." Eventually, he sighs and hands it over. Once everything checks out, he's cleared for the quest. Placing his helmet back on, he strides away, leaving Alina to brace herself. There's still a long line of adventurers to process, and she's already mentally exhausted. The history of the guild: centuries ago, the town's ancestors received blessings from their gods, whom they called Dia. These divine gifts advanced their civilization, allowing them to flourish. But one day, Dia vanished, and the land was overrun by monsters, plunging the country into chaos. 200 years ago, people began fighting back, reclaiming their cities and establishing guilds to keep the threats in check. The Eiffel counter became the largest guild hall, issuing quests to adventurers. While adventurers celebrate their latest victories with drinks and laughter, Alina remains at her desk, buried under a mountain of unfinished reports. She sighs, thinking about all the things she could be doing, taking a nice bath, cooking a homemade meal, reading a book, anything but this. Yet here she is, stuck under the dim glow of a single magic lamp, drowning in paperwork. The thought of pushing it off until tomorrow crosses her mind, but she knows she can't. With a resigned sigh, she cracks open a medieval energy drink and pushes through. The reason for the endless paperwork? The same monster keeps going unchecked, forcing more and more adventurers to try and outmatch the dragon. Frustration boils over as she slams her hands onto the desk. This cycle will never end. Tears prick her eyes, an entire month of this nonsense, and she's still stuck doing overtime. Slamming her adventurer's license on the table, she shouts that she'll finally be able to clock out on time. At the deepest level of the Belfla underground ruins lies a crystal cave where a dragon's roar echoes. The top guild, Silver Swords, is locked in battle against the Hellfire Dragon. Their leader, Jade Scrade, activates Sigurth Wall just as the beast breathes fire toward them, forcing his teammates to take cover behind his shield. "Now, Gans!" Jade calls. The large man charges at the dragon, swinging his massive battle axe, but his strike barely scratches the creature's armored scales. With a single swipe of its claws, the dragon sends him crashing into the cavern wall, leaving a crater in his wake. He slumps to the ground, dazed. "Lululi!" Jade shouts. Their support mage, Lululi, immediately casts a healing spell while Low Lozblender attacks with Imbur, an offensive ice spell. A spear of frozen shards collides with the dragon, creating a mist upon impact, but it barely does any damage. Despair sets in as each of them realizes they aren't strong enough. Jade considers retreating. Then, she walks in. Alina, known as the Executioner, enters the battlefield. Run, Jade yells, but she ignores him, activating her skill and summoning a massive hammer. Glaring at the dragon, she vents her frustration. Because of you, I have to work overtime. You're gonna pay for that. Her first strike sends the dragon stumbling back. As it regains focus and lunges to attack, she moves with a burst of speed, dodging and slamming her hammer into its side. This time, the dragon is knocked off its feet. Panic flashes in its eyes before it spreads its wings, attempting to escape. Oh no, you don't. Alina doesn't let it flee. She leaps onto its back, running up its scales, and with a final devastating blow, she crushes the dragon's skull in a burst of flames. Silence follows. The others watch in shock. She defeated a boss-level monster alone. The magic orb from the dragon's corpse falls to the ground, but Alina barely spares it a glance. Then she realizes everyone is staring at her. Panic sets in. Did they see her face? Without another word, she flees. The next day, a wanted poster circulates. Not as a bounty, but as a tabloid-style article speculating about the executioner's real identity. At the same time, news spreads that Gans has retired from Silver Swords. At the guild, Alina slumps over her desk, mortified. What an idiot I was. Lila, one of her colleagues, walks over. Hey, aren't you curious about the executioner? Alina nearly chokes. What? Lila beams. She's so cool, even cooler than Mr. Jade. She always shows up when people need help. She should totally team up with Silver Swords. They'd be invincible. Alina forces a laugh. Yeah, not happening. After all, she's been doing this illegally. If she's caught, she'll get fired. And as a responsible woman, she values stability, job security, great benefits, and a solid retirement plan. There's no way she's giving that up to be a full-time adventurer. Meanwhile, at the Silver Swords headquarters, Jade is losing his mind. I need to find that girl. His teammates exchange skeptical looks. You're sure the executioner was a girl? I remember her face, her eyes, her hair color. Drop it, one of them sighs. Right now, we need a new attacker since Gans retired. Later, while out shopping for herbs, Lo complains, why are we even doing this? I'd rather sleep. Lululi rolls her eyes. Lazy. All you ever do is nap. Excuse me? I study all night, thank you very much. Elsewhere, in a dark alley, an angry boy kicks a can, cursing those who made fun of him. A figure clad in dark skeletal armor looms behind him. Meanwhile, Jade walks through the streets, lost in thought about the artifact left behind by the dragon, an ancient relic granting unknown abilities. But his mind keeps drifting back to her. She fought differently from them, as if she had a completely unique skill set. Then, as if fate itself had given him a sign, a gust of wind blows, and he sees her, Alina. She turns slightly, revealing her unmistakable green eyes. It's her. It has to be her. Jade takes off running. Alina, seated at the guild's receptionist desk, feels the weight of his stare. Her palms start to sweat. Crap, he's investigating the executioner. She forces a smile as he approaches, but her terrible poker face betrays her. Internally, she panics. I covered my tracks. I even have a fake name on my license. There's no way he knows, right? Jade doesn't let up. I have some questions. She swallows hard. This is it. My life as a guild receptionist is over. But she won't go down without a fight. The two step outside where Jade hands her the relic from the dragon fight. This is your reward. She takes it, but as they discuss how unbreakable it supposedly is, she absent-mindedly crushes it in her hand, like glass. Jade stares. Alina glares. If you get me fired, I swear I'll turn you into paste. As she turns to leave, he grabs her wrist, activating his skill to harden whatever he touches. She narrows her eyes. You sure about this? Jade, filled with determination, nods. As the leader of the strongest party, I have to ask you to join us. Alina lifts her hammer. You absolute dumbass. She swings, ready to kill him for threatening her job. Jade pleads with her to stop repeatedly, then asks if her weapon is the legendary Dia skill. But Alina doesn't know what that is and doesn't care. Jade tries again, insisting that he came here to talk. As he blurts out that he wants her, Alina, annoyed, warns him that she'll sue for sexual harassment and abuse of power. Jade quickly explains that he meant he wants her on his team. He just can't get over how she beat the Hell Dragon and thinks she could still party with them when she's not working. But Alina has no interest in that. She'd rather go home. The only reason she fights at all is to avoid working overtime. Jade is confused, but before he can say anything, she shuts him down. Don't look at me like that. I don't need another reason to fight. She drags him in and blames his pathetic party for dragging their feet trying to beat that damn dragon. because all that does is force her to work extra hours and fall further behind in her actual job. After hearing her out, Jade can only apologize. Before he leaves, she gives him one last warning: don't speak about this to anyone, or I'll destroy you. The next day, her junior is being yelled at by some guy in an alley, someone looking for a secret quest. Alina steps in, confirming that her colleague is correct. They don't have any quests labeled as secret quests. The aggressive boy scoffs, telling her to drop the act because he knows they have them. He then calls Alina a stuck-up receptionist bitch. Alina doesn't show her annoyance, but in her head, she knows exactly what he's talking about, just a rumor made up by adventurers. She reiterates that all quests are displayed publicly, but he remains adamant that they're lying, making her want to punch this guy in the face. The man calls her a bitch again and looks ready to attack, but before he can make a move, his hand is grabbed by Jade. "Drop it," Jade warns. Slay glares at him. "Oh? Trying to show off in front of a lady?" He lunges at Jade, but Jade easily takes him down. Pinning Slay's arm, Jade threatens to break it if he ever touches Alina again. Then, almost as an afterthought, he remembers her words and corrects himself. "I mean, just the receptionist." Slay scowls, but ultimately runs off like a cartoon villain. Lila lets out a sigh of relief and thanks Miss Alina for defending her. Jade then turns to Alina, his expression shifting to concern. "You okay?" "I'm fine," she replies. "Be careful," he says. "There are guys like that, and you shouldn't provoke them." Alina nods and bows, thanking him. But then, slipping back into her usual persona from yesterday, she narrows her eyes. "Why is a member of Silver Sword here?" Jade tenses, realizing he might be busted. "Just passing by," he claims, then quickly makes his exit. Alina smirks. "Come visit again," she calls after him, though she doesn't mean it. The next morning, she wakes up thinking about Jade. He might have figured something out about her. Maybe she should rough him up a bit to make sure he stays quiet. But she dismisses the idea. Probably not the best move. Getting fired for assaulting a guy would be bad. She groans, flopping back onto her bed. She just wants to stay home and escape reality. But she knows she can't. She just took out a mortgage on this house. She needs her secure job. The thought of work makes her reaffirm that it's the best job ever. She can't quit now. At lunch, Alina angrily shovels food into her mouth, still thinking about that guy. Then she notices him camped out at her counter, just standing there. Just as she starts wondering what the hell he's doing, he walks over. "This place is peaceful," he comments casually. Seeing him here, Alina's ready to activate her skill and attack. Jade raises his hands in defense. "I didn't even do anything." "Shut up," she snaps. "This is the only time I get to be alone." Fred, Jade tilts his head. "When did you unlock your skill? I'm not telling you." She turns and walks away. Jade watches her go, sighing. "You're wasting your skill just being a receptionist," she scoffs. "And you're wasting your time stalking me." 2 summers ago, Ifol held its Centennial Festival, a grand event spanning 3 days and 3 nights of non-stop partying. Alina didn't get to enjoy any of it. She was brand new at her job, forced to work overtime to fix all the mistakes she made. By the time she finally finished, she was exhausted, crumbling under the stress. There's a legend. The person who desires a wish the most can receive a blessing from their god. Desperate, Alina had prayed internally, begging the gods not to make her work overtime. Somehow, she managed to finish her tasks early. She ran to the festival, eager to finally have some fun. But when she got there, it was already over. She stood frozen, staring at the empty streets. Then, the crushing weight of reality hit her. She worked so hard just to have a little fun, only to miss everything. Tears welled up in her eyes. Because of those lousy adventurers, she had to file more paperwork. Because of those damn monsters, she had to clean up the mess. Her frustration boiled over. She cried, willing to do anything to never work overtime again. Then, in a fit of desperation, she screamed to the heavens, demanding power. If she had it, she'd use it to get rid of all the overtime in the world. Dia rewards her for making a wish straight from the heart, which is how she gained her power. Slay sits on the bench, still mad about what happened, wanting to punch the receptionist into next year, not Jade. He then overhears some adventurers talking about bringing a monster to the festival, one that took an entire raid party to defeat. Meanwhile, Jade is lost in thought, wondering how he can get Alina to notice him since he has a crush on her. Suddenly, he hears a commotion. It sounds like an earthquake. Slay is on top of the monster, smashing rocks and causing chaos, acting like a badass little kid. Jade can't believe what he's seeing, but immediately prepares to fight. Summoning Haster, he draws the monster's attention and orders the other adventurers to leave. They hesitate, believing he's not strong enough to defeat it. That's when he's told this is a raid boss, making the situation even more dangerous. Slay then laughs like a full-blown evil villain, revealing that this was all his doing. He's controlling the monster and plans to kill everyone just because he's pissed off, proving he's a complete psychopath. Determined, Jade grabs a shield and activates Sigurth Wall, blocking the raid boss's devastating attack. Meanwhile, Alina is cursing her boss for dumping a pile of EOD files on her as usual, forcing her into overtime. Hearing the destruction in the city, she goes to check what's happening, only to find that idiot, Slay, controlling the monster. She's not even surprised. Of course, he's the type of person to give her overtime and destroy the city. Then, the rock golem fires a random attack. She watches its trajectory, her stomach dropping as she realizes where it's headed. No, 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 no. She sprints toward her house, praying that God isn't this cruel. He is. Her house is the only one destroyed. Out of everyone else's, hers got annihilated. She stares at the wreckage, then crumbles to the ground in complete shock. She still has 30 years left on the mortgage. Now she's too pissed off to care. She's going to kill that bastard. Storming onto the battlefield, she obliterates one of the golem's limbs with a single swing. Slay blinks, confused. Jade calls out to her, but Slay just laughs, thinking about how much trouble he'd be in with the guild if he actually killed their top adventurer. But Alina, she's not listening. How dare you take away my comfort place? She seethes. Slay pauses, thrown off. Then she launches into a monologue, voice rising with each word. Her house was her sanctuary, her oasis in modern society, her heaven after work, and he, this giant asshole, took it away. You're gonna die, and you're gonna apologize while doing it. She destroys the golem in a fury, eyes locked onto Slay. He broke something that wasn't his. Now she's going to break him. Later, she sits outside her ruined house, tears in her eyes as Jade confirms that, yeah, Slay really did a number on it. Alina sniffles. I don't even know how to live anymore. Trying to be the hero, Jade offers, "You can stay at my apartment tonight." She immediately shuts that down, starts calming just enough to glare at him. Don't joke. This is a serious moment. With a sigh, she says she'll just stay at an inn. But as she walks away, she remembers one last thing. She still has overtime. Because of that asshole. She groans. Jade, just leave me alone. That night, 2 individuals investigate the scene of the crime, searching for executioner. The woman, Feely, and the man, Glenn Gallia. Glenn uses the skill Sigurth Chronos. Later, Alina can't stop cursing her luck, cursing Slay and all his descendants. Meanwhile, Jade organizes her paperwork and tells her to cheer up. She glances at him and asks why he's still here when she told him to go home. He feels guilty and thinks it's better to stick around, just in case this happens again. She blushes and looks away, admitting that he technically works for the guild, so he can be in the office. Jade looks at the mountain of work she handles and questions whether his workload isn't already enough. Alina admits that she used to think like that too, but eventually realized that some days she has no motivation, so she'd rather finish everything now and clock out on time tomorrow. Jade doesn't quite get it, but he hands her the next batch of paperwork, and she checks to see that it's perfect. That's when it hits her. This guy might be the type to excel at everything with only minimal instruction. Meanwhile, she's the clumsy type who makes every little mistake. This realization doesn't just annoy her, it pisses her off. She spent 3 years enduring pain, tears, and suffering, only for him to get it right on the first try. Why the hell do I have to suffer? She grumbles. Seeing her frustration, Jade offers to do all the work so she can go home, but she refuses. Her pride as a receptionist won't allow it. He then offers to buy her sweets, but when he reaches for his wallet, the relic she broke the other day is there, fully repaired. He reads the inscription, and it suddenly activates, causing a glowing panel to appear in front of them. It generates a quest form, instructing them to defeat all the bosses at the clock tower. While Jade tries to decipher what it means, Alina completely ignores it. Not my headache to deal with. The next day, she makes the papers again, with everyone wanting to know who she is. Layla, in particular, questions whether she is Executioner. This worries Alina, but Layla assumes she's just a fan, like her. As Layla fangirls over Executioner, Jade teases, asking which of them she's a bigger fan of. Layla, convinced Executioner is some hot guy, dramatically declares, and I quote, that she wants to be hit with that big hammer. Later, the guildmaster Glenn walks into the room, immediately commanding attention. He's looking for Executioner. His eyes scan the room before landing on her. He walks right up to Alina, greets the receptionist, and asks if she knows what his skill is. She stiffens but recites it perfectly. He can stop time and observe events from afar. He chuckles, remarking that this is exactly why she has her job. Then, leaning in closer, he murmurs, "Come to my office." Alina goes pale, muttering under her breath, "He knows." Jade tries to cheer her up, but she snaps at him. "Shut up. You're nothing but a damn tattletale." Jade insists it wasn't him, but she cuts him off. I hate you. I hope you stub your pinky toe on a dresser and die. Jade practically crumbles. She sounds like she genuinely despises him now. Am I shit? Lululi, hearing the situation, jumps in, noting that it sounds like she's always hated him. But Lo quickly covers her mouth. Now is not the time to kick a man when he's already down. Later, they arrive at an arena where the Guildmaster challenges her to a duel. Alina is taken aback by the challenge of a duel, with the Guildmaster wagering that she must join Silver Sword if he wins. Hearing this, Alina asks what she gets if she wins. The Guildmaster replies that no matter what, she can keep her job, and they will leave her alone if she wins. Alina decides to fight and summons her hammer, shocking Jade's party members. They recognize the white magic circle, unable to believe that the desk girl is actually the strongest adventurer. In a sing-song voice, she thanks the Guildmaster for wanting to settle this with violence and pure strength, declaring that she will kill him for the sake of her peace. The Guildmaster, Glenn, activates Sigurth Kronos, stopping time. He admits that with her power, she could defeat the Dark God, but he believes he is victorious. However, to his shock, her power is so immense that she shatters time itself, entering his personal dimension. Alina, completely unaware of what's happening, listens as Glenn explains that this is his observation room where he stops time. Realizing he has lost, he restarts the flow of time. Back in his office, Glenn apologizes, admitting he was simply curious about her skill. Alina is confused, and his assistant, Feely, explains that there are different types of skills, such as Regin skills, more powerful Sigurth skills, and the rarest of all, Dia skills. Feely then declares that Alina's ability is a Dia skill. Alina, unimpressed, doesn't care. She reminds Glenn of his promise preparing to leave, but Glenn mentions the name Chalk Tower and asks if she's heard of it. She stops, admitting that she has, and demands to know where this is going. Glenn reveals that he received a report from Jade and followed up with an investigation, confirming that the Chalk Tower is real. It was left behind by their ancestors as a hidden quest. Alina, utterly uninterested, goes back to shake Glenn silly. She doesn't care about the quest, but she does recognize that it will lead to more quests being added to the guild's roster, meaning more work for her. She throws a fit, realizing that because no one will be able to conquer it, she'll end up with even more overtime. With her head in her hands, she despairs, realizing she will never escape working overtime. Meanwhile, Glenn starts to piece together that she did all of this just to get off work on time. He tries to reassure her, saying she'll be rewarded when the quest is complete, but she cuts him off, pointing at him. He just promised to leave her alone. She storms out, knowing there's still a chance she might die because of this, but Glenn manages to stop her by offering to double the number of staff. This makes her pause. She peeks back, asking if she heard him correctly. After a moment of thought, she realizes that with more staff, she could offload her work onto others. She imagines being surrounded by lovely ladies, all doing her work while she relaxes with tea and snacks. Overcome with emotion, she shouts to the heavens. This is everything she has ever wanted. With that, she accepts Glenn's offer, just this once, on the condition that he eliminates her overtime. At the Silver Sword Mansion, Alina wakes up, adjusting to the luxury of the place. She considers sleeping in, thinking that maybe this could be nice, until the ever-eager Jade knocks on her door to wake her up. At Elm Canyon, the group introduces themselves and heads out. Lo quickly notices that Alina doesn't want to be there. Jade explains that she's using a paid vacation day to be there. Not seeing the big deal in missing a single day, Jade's remark enrages her. He doesn't understand the struggles of adulthood. To Alina, a paid day off is a sacred resource, as essential as basic human rights. At the Chalk Tower, Jade informs her that the guild is keeping information about the place classified. Before going inside, Jade hands her a gem relic that allows them to see when a member is on the verge of death. The guild has given one to every member of Silver Sword. Jade tells her to let him draw the aggro first before he goes in. On the first floor, a war wolf approaches them. Jade goes in first, using Hastor, while Alina follows up, taking it down with a single attack. She now believes she understands the importance of a party, but when she looks back, she sees their shocked expressions. This was a top-tier boss, and she defeated it in one hit. Lo realizes he won't have to do anything today, while Lululi praises her new big sister. The group talks about how their ancestors sought greater power, angering the gods, who wiped them all out. In the hall on the second floor, they hear adventurers. When they arrive, they find the bodies of fallen men. Lululi tries to heal them, but she's too late. Seeing their corpses triggers something in Alina. Jade begins to suspect this wasn't a monster attack, but before he can voice it, Lululi calls out to Rufus, someone they know. Rufus tells them they were attacked by a human-looking monster. Just then, a bat monster, drawn by the scent of the bodies, attacks Jade. Before anyone can react, Alina takes it out instantly. Seeing her white magic circle, Rufus assumes she's working with the monster that defeated them and calls her one as well. That evening, they return to the headmaster's office to discuss the Dia-leveled monster. But then Rufus barges into the office, calling them weak for stopping now. He begins acting hysterical, declaring that he should have been on Silver Sword instead of them, accusing them of hiding a monster within their ranks, and threatening to expose them for keeping such a creature in their party. He demands they kick that person off the team and add him instead, all because he wants the relic on the deepest floor. It is revealed that the same mysterious skull figure who met with Slay also met a drunk Rufus, convincing him to go to the Chalk Tower. Jade outright refuses, unwilling to risk his party members' lives based on such unreliable intel. Later that night, Jade visits Alina and tells her she doesn't have to go on the next quest. They'll take Rufus instead. This is a terrible idea since Rufus's team can't even defeat the Helldragon. Meanwhile, the Guildmaster is willing to hire the staff he promised. Alina finds all of this suspicious, but doesn't question it. Jade then notices she's wearing normal clothes. Alina explains that she doesn't like wearing her uniform everywhere. He compliments her, saying at least he got to see her in cute clothes at least once. Before leaving, she asks if he really has a plan to deal with the monster. It sounds like he doesn't. Jade admits he has no choice. He was ordered to go, so he goes. That's what being part of the top team means. This worries her. Jade then tells her she's allowed to use this room until her house is repaired. As he leaves, she sees the ghost of someone she once cared about. As a child, Alina worked at a pub where she often spoke with Mr. Shroud, an adventurer. When she was younger, she wanted to become a strong, invincible adventurer, but the man urged her to become a receptionist instead, telling her she would grow up to be pretty and have a nice, stable job. The two made a pinky promise. Later, she saw his dead body. Alina gets up to go to work, telling Jade he'd better come back. Meanwhile, the group is on the third floor with Jade in rough shape, tanking all the attacks. Rufus mocks them, being a general pain, but Jade tells them to ignore him. On the next floor, they run into Silha, the Dark God. A dark orb on his stomach summons Diastorm, a spear, which he throws. Jade manages to block it, but the attack leaves a chip on his shield. Lo wants to retreat, but Rufus cuts in, activating his skill, Prisoner, trapping them in a cage made of his energy. Rufus believes he'll be rewarded if he feeds them to the Dark God, and Jade realizes what he did to his last party, betraying them to gain a Dia skill. As Rufus laughs like a stereotypical evil villain, the Dark God suddenly kills him. When Rufus asks why, the Dark God simply tells him that he devours everyone in front of him, no exceptions, turning him into fuel for his soul. Alina is about to finish her shift at the receptionist's desk on time for once. She checks her gem crystal, remembering that it can warn her if they're in danger. She briefly wonders if those weaklings will be okay, but quickly shakes her head, pushing the thought aside to focus on work. At Chalk Tower, the Dark God Scylla steps forward, ready to begin the fight. Lo fires a stream of flames at him, but Silha effortlessly waves it away. Lululi activates her skill, Sigurth Revive, preparing to heal Jade when he inevitably gets wounded. Silha suddenly hurls his spear at Jade. He barely manages to block it, but the impact deals massive damage to his shield and leaves him with a deep cut. The Dark God eyes Lululi and smirks, having noticed her regenerative ability. Interesting, he muses. I think I'll be taking that skill for myself. Lululi stiffens in fear. Before she can react, Silha activates Deodraine, summoning a mirror that reflects her own magic, unleashing a blinding light. When the light fades, her staff is gone, stolen by the Dark God. But instead of keeping it, he casually snaps it in half. He has no need for it. Panicked, Lululi attempts to use her healing skill, only to realize it no longer works. Her divine blessing has been stripped away. Lo notices a strange tattoo on Silha's neck. His eyes widen in recognition. That mark, he mutters. He's a relic, a remnant of the ancestors. Jade, ever the over-the-top hero, tells his friends to run. He wants to face the Dark God alone. Silha chuckles, finding his bravery amusing. Jade activates Sigurth Blood, drawing all attacks toward himself. Silha, still entertained, simply points at him. In response, his telekinetic swords launch forward, piercing through Jade's shield and slicing into him. But Jade grits his teeth, refusing to fall. I train every day to be resilient enough to withstand a single attack, he shouts. Lo, get out of here, Silha smirks. Let's see how long that lasts. A second sword stabs into Jade. He rushes forward, desperate to save him, but before she can reach him, Lo swoops in, grabbing her and carrying her away. "Let me go," she screams, struggling in his grip. But Lo has already made up his mind. "We don't stand a chance," he says, his voice grim. Surprisingly, Silha doesn't pursue them. He's having too much fun playing with Jade. On the third floor of the tower, Lululi finally breaks free and shoves Lo. "How could you leave him?" Lo shouts back. "He gave us a chance to leave. There was nothing we could have done." The truth crashes over her like a tidal wave. She crumbles to the ground. Jade is dead, but they aren't given a moment to grieve. A low growl echoes through the hallway, and they turn to see another monster approaching, hungry. Back at the guild building, Alina is dealing with a very unhappy Lila, who is complaining about working overtime. "This way, we can actually clock out on time tomorrow," Alina says, sipping her drink. Layla groans, but takes sip of her own. The two of them down their Red Bulls, exhausted. Then, out of nowhere, Layla sniffles. "I still can't believe the guild's giving up on finding the executioner. My dream guy." Alina rolls her eyes but stops when she notices something. Lila's pocket is glowing. "What's that?" Alina asks. Lila pulls out the source, a small gem pulsing with light. "Aw, it's kinda cute," she says, tilting her head. "But why is it glowing?" Alina freezes. The color drains from her face as realization dawns. That glow means one thing. Silver Sword is on the verge of death. For a moment, ghosts of her past flicker in her mind. Then, without another word, she slams the table and bolts out the door. Back on the fourth floor of Chalk Tower, Scylla conjures 50 swords out of thin air, forming a deadly ring around Jade. "Let's see," he muses. "How many can a human take before he breaks?" In his final moments, he remembers the grumpy face of the girl he loves, never once disliking it. From the very first moment he saw her, he knew he was drawn to her. He loves her childish nature, her resolute way of solving problems through force, the dead look in her eyes when she's working, and the terrifying expression she makes when she's angry. Compared to her, Jade believes Silha is nothing. Meanwhile, Alina rushes to the dungeon gate, guarded by NPCs. They immediately point their swords at her, signaling her to halt. She stops, frozen with indecision. If she reveals herself, her entire life could change. But she can't let Jade and the others die. Taking a deep breath, she activates her skill and commands them to move. Inside, on the third floor, Lo is being crushed by a monster. He simply can't tank the hits. Lululi rushes to him, crying, helpless without her staff or healing skills. As Lo bleeds out, he tells the girl he likes to run, knowing she can't fight. But Lululi is the type to go down with the ship. She even throws up a classic T-pose in defiance of death. Luckily, Alina arrives just in time. With a single swing, she obliterates the monster. Seeing them still alive, she breathes a sigh of relief, tosses Lo an energy drink, then heads straight for the boss. By the time she reaches the chamber, it looks like she's too late. Jade is slumped against the wall, unmoving. Alina's mind spirals into panic, traumatic memories flashing before her eyes. His voice echoes in her head, but he doesn't move. She screams his name, only to be interrupted by the sharp whistle of a spear cutting through the air. She dodges just in time and lunges toward the boss. Silha, grinning, welcomes another entertaining fight. He casually confirms Jade is dead. Alina promises to kill him. With a roar, she activates her hammer and smashes him into a pillar. The dark god pulls himself up, intrigued. A mere human? Matching his skill? Amused, he activates his Dia skill. A storm of swords materializes around her. Alina deflects most, but the overpowered attack is relentless. Several blades pierce through her. The pain is unbearable. She's not a warrior. And the final sword? It's aimed straight for her head. She's about to die, until it's blocked. Silha raises an eyebrow, impressed. More durable than I thought. But Alina, gritting her teeth, pushes forward. She lunges at his chest. Then she turns to Jade. Is he really alive? Jade groggily replies that he was asleep this whole time. The sound of her hammer woke him up. He was just waiting for her. Tears fall as Jade rushes in to hug her. She's embarrassed but lets him. Then, as if nothing happened, she offers him a bottle of her energy drink. Jade, of course, immediately fixates on one thing, an indirect kiss. The touching moment is cut short as Scylla gets back up. A single wound won't take him down. Alina watches in horror as he regenerates. Jade, gritting his teeth, realizes what happened. Silha stole Lululi's skill. Then through his next words, the truth of the past is revealed. The humans of the past didn't become gods. They weren't killed by gods. They died to their own AI creation, an intelligence that deemed them illogical. Scylla raises a hand. 100 swords materialize around them. Jade clenches his fists. He can't block them, not without his shield. He turns to Alina and tells her the same thing he told his friends, run. She refuses. He shouts at her to leave. It's his job as a tank to stay back the longest. Alina glares at him. He has his pride as a tank. She has her pride as a receptionist. Neither of them can compromise. With fierce determination, she swings her hammer, carving out a path. Then she charges straight at the Dark God, leaping past the second wave of swords, only to be struck down midair. But she gets back up, declaring that one day she'll enjoy a peaceful life with vacation benefits. Because of this, her wish is amplified, and she becomes even more determined to drag this boss down. With the fourth Raikage's lightning cloak, she pushes the Dark God back. The Dark God panics and summons 1,000 swords. Alina doesn't even move. His wish is not greater than hers. His desire is not stronger than hers. The gods have truly named Alina their favorite child. On his deathbed, Silha reveals that he's not the only Dark God, that she'll have to do this for the rest of her life. But she cuts him off by killing him. Jade sweat drops, realizing that Silha was about to reveal something really important, but Alina doesn't care. In the end, they all get a happy ending. The boys are healed up, the guildmaster manages to get the guards to keep quiet, and her house is repaired. But Alina still has to work overtime. Jade, fresh out of the hospital and still injured, comes by, about to confess his love. He gets smacked before he can finish. Instead, Alina decides to put him to work, forcing him to help her finish her paperwork. She just wants to go to bed. Alina happily closes the guild as she prepares to enjoy her lunch break, already fantasizing about the treats the townspeople have been raving about. However, a voice calls out for her to wait. A chubby man rushing toward her as if he were late for school. He catches his breath, relieved that he made it in time, while Alina twitches in irritation, considering him late in her eyes as she was just about to leave. The blonde man asks to take on a quest he had been eyeing. He sweet-talks her, asking her to be a babe and let him accept the quest, since he technically made it before closing. Alina internally battles with herself. Her angelic side insists he's right, as it would be a small kindness to help him, and it would only take a moment. However, her demonic side argues that he's clearly late, and helping him would cut into her precious lunch break. Before she can decide, the man makes it easy for her by impatiently telling her to hurry up because he wants to leave and make it to lunch. Somehow, despite her irritation, she ends up helping him. As a result, she's stuck eating a regular sandwich instead of the burger she had been craving, all the while grumbling in frustration. Her coworker doesn't understand why she didn't just tell the guy off. Alina sighs, explaining that she did it for the greater good, because if she didn't, he would have just dumped more paperwork on her. She dramatically stands up and exclaims that it's all for the Centennial Festival, a 3-day non-stop party she missed entirely 2 years ago because she was working overtime. Consumed with rage, Alina declares that this year will be different. "I'm gonna clock out on time if it's the last thing I do," she yells. Lila, her coworker, doesn't see how Alina could possibly be that busy. Alina dramatically warns her that their office will soon become a battlefield. Lila is left stunned as Alina explains that during the Centennial Festival, extra rewards and bonuses are offered for clearing quests, causing adventurers to flood their office by the hundreds. For them, this is the most profitable time of the year. To prepare, Alina slams a massive, hefty pile of papers onto the desk. She reveals that over the past year, she has compiled countermeasures for every possible scenario in advance. She even has a detailed planner listing all the foods she plans to try, complete with a 3-day schedule, all to avoid overtime. Layla finally understands. This isn't just about fun. It's about releasing the pent-up frustration from working tirelessly for so long, making the moment of relaxation all the more euphoric. Meanwhile, at the Silver Sword's private mansion in Lululi's room, the girl plucks the head off a carrot, only for it to let out a blood-curdling scream. Unfazed, she continues with a creepy yet intoxicated smile, wearing noise-canceling headphones to block out the disturbing sound. She breaks the carrot's body down and pours a formula into a jar, watching as it begins to glow. With a satisfied grin, she declares it perfect. In Lo's room, the boy angrily hurls daggers at his dartboard. At that moment, Lululi bursts through the door, yelling at him to stop, insisting he needs to recover his strength. Lo dismisses her concern, claiming he's fine, but Lululi scolds him, reminding him that he has broken ribs and a punctured lung. With that settled, she hands him the carrot formula she just made. Lo eyes it warily. It looks even worse than her last concoction. Lululi reassures him that it should be fine, mentioning that Jade also drank it, so it must be safe. Despite his reservations, Lo eventually works up the courage to drink it. The taste sends him into shock. but he forces a smile, trying to be polite, saying he's sure he'll feel better soon. That evening, Alina happily walks home, overjoyed that she was able to clock out on time. She stops in front of a cake shop and is brought to tears, feeling as though simply having the time to visit is a privilege reserved for true victories. Inside, the cakes sparkle in the display case. Alina marvels at the sight, excitedly pointing at all the desserts she wants. Her eyes land on the last strawberry tart, just as Lululee does the same. The two women both reach for it at the same time. Outside, they chat, with Lululee apologizing for taking the last tart. However, Alina doesn't mind, cheerfully revealing that she bought plenty of other sweets. The two sit together, happily eating their cakes. As they enjoy their treats, Lululee suddenly mentions that she now understands why Jade is so infatuated with Alina. The girl nearly choked on her cake as the statement was rather personal and embarrassing. Lululee then asked how often Alina came to the shop, with Alina claiming it was the best cake shop in the city. Lululee agreed, mentioning that she and Lo came here often, with the boy loving to buy the grape jellies. Thinking of buying some for him while he recovered, Alina complimented her, attributing it to her being a true healer who genuinely cared for her friends. However, Lululee's mood turned somber as she suddenly felt inferior. She believed Alina had overshadowed her during their last quest, convinced that they would have all died if not for her. Alina told her to forget about it and just enjoy the present. The two finished their cakes and said goodbye to each other. On her way home, Jade called out to Alina, running to catch up with her. She shot him an annoyed look, asking what he wanted. He thanked her for being kind to his friend, but the way he said it made it sound like he had been stalking her, which made Alina suspicious. When she questioned him, Jade quickly changed the subject, mentioning that he had assumed she would come check on him at least once. Alina was confused, asking why she would go out of her way just to see him. Jade tried to make them seem closer by bringing up the inn she stayed in and the time they spent together on their last mission. However, Alina denied all of his attempts, explaining that she had more reasonable reasons for wanting her own space. Meanwhile, Lululee was walking home, unaware that a shady figure was watching her from a side alley. It was 10 days before the Centennial Festival, and Alina was ready to work her butt off. Layla tried to match her energy, but the girl quickly got off topic, asking if Alina had a special someone this time around. She assumed that was the reason for Alina's excitement. Alina looked annoyed, not knowing what she meant. Layla told her not to play dumb, happily explaining that the Centennial Festival was basically one big dating event. This genuinely confused Alina, as she had no idea what Layla was referring to. The younger girl was shocked, unable to believe that Alina didn't know. When Alina revealed that she had nothing planned for a date, Lila dramatically shut down, warning her that the event would be full of flirting couples. She called going to the festival alone a death wish, claiming she wouldn't be caught dead in that situation again. Alina didn't see the big deal about going alone, which horrified her younger coworker. Layla was now certain that Alina was stronger than she could ever be. She dramatically cried over the loss of the overtime freak Alina, as she couldn't hang out with her during the festival. She had a date. Alina, who had no idea, wasn't really interested in hearing about it, but Lila didn't take the hint. She happily revealed that Alina might be surprised. She was going with Executioner. Alina's face fell to the floor upon hearing this, which Layla mistook as shock, blushing with embarrassment. In reality, Alina was afraid her friend was being lied to, knowing how gullible Lila could be. However, Layla misinterpreted her reaction, thinking Alina found it impossible. Finally, Layla revealed that she was actually talking about a doll she had paid extra for to match her ideal man. Before they could continue their chat, the conversation was interrupted as Layla suddenly turned toward the door, hearing something outside. The noise only grew louder as adventurers made it clear they were here first. Yes, the dreaded day had come. Just like the Black Friday episode in South Park, winter had arrived, and the war had begun. By the end of the battle, the girls lay slumped on the floor, surrounded by scattered guild documents. Lila stuttered, unable to understand how there could be so many adventurers. It wasn't even bonus season, so how could there be this many? Alina, a seasoned veteran, knew this wasn't normal. There had to be a particularly tasty piece of bait drawing in adventurers by the hundreds. She didn't want to resort to this, but it left her no choice. Lalia couldn't believe the girl's bravery, standing in the face of such a challenge. She glanced around and saw the other receptionist girls passed out, making Alina feel she had to do something about it. Alina shouted, "This can't stand," vowing not to work overtime, even if it killed her. Meanwhile, Jade and his party welcomed a new member while exploring a dungeon, fighting a raging armored wolf. The new member, named Cybele, managed to bypass the wolf's defenses and land a slash across its chest. Known as the top young attacker, Cybele showed promise, but his eagerness was his weakness. Letting his guard down, the wolf retaliated, striking him and sending him twirling back toward the party with a similar gash across his chest. When Lulu Lee rushed over to heal him, she was hit with a traumatic flashback, seeing Lo in the same position. She froze, developing hemophobia. Jade quickly snapped her out of it, grabbing her attention. With shaky hands, she finally performed the healing spell, though Jade noticed her uncharacteristic slowness. Siebel, undeterred, immediately jumped back up and charged into battle again, ignoring Jade's warning to let them draw the monster's attention. The wolf easily blocked Siebel's predictable swings and disarmed him. Now weaponless, the young boy stood paralyzed with fear. It seemed hopeless until a raging Alina stormed in, slashing through the monster with a single strike. The creature screamed, glitching like a hologram with a broken projector. The illusion shattered, revealing the fake world they were trapped in. Without missing a beat, Alina stormed over to Jade. The boy, intimidated, stiffened. She grabbed him by the collar, her eyes blazing with fury. "I have some questions," she growled before dragging him away, making it look like she was walking her dog. The scene left the rookie in tears as he witnessed the massive gap in skill between himself and Alina. Lo and Lulu Lee tried to cheer him up, knowing the feeling of inferiority all too well. However, Siebel was inconsolable. He believed he couldn't live up to the name of Silver Sword and ran off, determined to grow stronger. The two sweat dropped, realizing they would need to search for yet another swordsman for their party. Meanwhile, in the Guildmaster's office, Alina was giving him an earful. She was furious about having to work herself to death due to the swarm of idiots flooding the guild that morning. She accused Jade of being negligent, claiming he should have known someone was behind it all. Glenn stepped forward, explaining that there was a secret quest rumored to grant a special relic, one that could unlock a Dia skill. Alina was outraged. "My workload increased because of a baseless rumor?" she snapped. Jade tried to reason with her, pointing out that many adventurers would risk everything for the ultimate power of a Dia skill. Glenn revealed that the guild planned to release a statement declaring the rumor false. But this didn't calm Alina down. She scoffed, knowing full well that adventurers were too brainless to calm down, let alone listen to an official message. With that, she stormed out, frustrated that she had taken time off work just to deal with this nonsense. Outside the office, Lulu Lee waited, lost in thought. Jade emerged, greeting his friend and filling her in on the situation. However, his tone soon became serious as he brought up her freezing during the fight. Lulu Lee's eyes widened in shock, but she quickly deflected with a lie, making up an excuse to cover for herself. Jade, sensing her reluctance, let it drop. Soon after, Lo walked over, having overheard their conversation. He blamed Lulu's staff, claiming it was still influenced by the dark god they had destroyed. To thank her for taking such good care of them, Lo presented her with a perfectly crafted staff he had made just for her, a heartfelt gesture of gratitude. The next day, an angered Alina is scarfing down a sandwich while finishing up her overtime. Lalia, watching her, doesn't see why she doesn't leave the extra work for someone else, which catches Alina's attention. Lalia points out that everyone else does. Alina handles quest acceptance forms faster than anyone, which is why she ends up with the most paperwork. She double-checks the background details of what the adventurers claim, rather than just accepting it at face value and letting them spin their tall tales. Lalia argues that this would save Alina a lot of time, as she wouldn't have to do all the extra research. However, Alina counters that someone still needs to process and verify whether the adventurer's claims are true. Lalia admits this, but insists that someone doesn't have to be Alina. Alina looks away, unwilling to respond, as it would feel like she isn't doing her job properly. But Lalia argues that this is exactly what makes her such a good scapegoat for her employer to exploit. Her flaw is that she's too diligent. Alina begrudgingly agrees, knowing full well that she's always the one burdened with extra work. That night, the Guildmaster calls in his top party to discuss a series of rumors that seem to align with what Rufus has reported. According to Rufus, he had heard a rumor about how to acquire a Dia skill and sacrificed his entire party to obtain it. The Guildmaster's group concludes that this may be yet another attempt to summon a dark god. Just then, Alina angrily yells at them, demanding to know why they have to hold their secretive meeting at her job while she's working. The Guildmaster makes a weak excuse, claiming that discussing this secret information in his office might not be private enough. You never know who's listening. Jade chimes in, suggesting that the rumors may have already started to spread. Frustrated, Alina snaps at them to just go arrest the bad guys already if the intel department has given them a lead. With that, she resolves to do whatever it takes to enjoy the Centennial Festival. Later that night, Jade questions whether Alina can really finish all her work in time for the festival. Alina admits she doesn't know any other way. Seeing her frustration, Jade offers a surefire solution to get rid of all her work: However, Alina immediately grows suspicious, convinced the boy has ulterior motives. Jade steps back, shocked, but eventually he shyly admits that he wanted to ask her out on a date. Alina yells, accusing him of having a hidden agenda all along. Jade, desperate, begs her to reconsider, saying he only wants 2 days with her. Realizing this might be a hard sell, he nervously lowers his offer to 1 day, but Alina furiously declares she'd rather die. Now torn, Alina is in a dilemma. She wants to enjoy the festival but really doesn't want to agree to Jade's condition. After some internal struggle, she ultimately decides that 1 day is worth it if she gets to enjoy 2 festival days in return. Even though she'd rather die and puke blood, she yells out all her inner thoughts, unintentionally making Jade feel utterly worthless. In the end, she begrudgingly accepts his offer but firmly warns the boy not to get the wrong idea. It's 5 days until the festival, and Silversword walks along a grassy trail in the prairies wearing hooded cloaks. Alina joins them, determined to unmask the person behind the recent incidents. She declares that those who force her to work overtime must die. Jade sweat drops at the girl's intense hatred for working. Alina then glances down at her outfit, frowning at what she's being forced to wear. She questions the point of it all, remarking that Lululi looks like a shield that sprouted legs, as the heavy thing is practically bigger than she is. Lo bursts into laughter, teasing that Lululi definitely got the short end of the stick. Sweating from the weight of the shield, Lululi glares at him, telling him to shut his mouth. Jade explains the plan. The recent rumors have been targeting newbie, and weak adventurers. To combat this, they're disguising themselves as inexperienced adventurers to lure the culprits out. As they walk, Jade starts eyeing Alina fondly, daydreaming about a life where she is his sweet, caring white healer. Meanwhile, Lo reminisces about his early adventuring days, feeling nostalgic as he eagerly wears his old clothes again, thrilled by the memories they bring back. The group eventually reaches a hill overlooking an ideal beginner-level dungeon, the C-Rank Forest of Eternity. They decide to take a break, with Lululi happily dropping her oversized, overcompensating shield with a heavy thud. Alina sits down while Jade continues to stare at her longingly. Noticing the sweat on her forehead, he casually brings up how many people swim in the nearby lake and play games during their downtime. Alina immediately picks up on what he's hinting at and firmly shuts him down, making it clear that he won't be seeing her in a bikini. Jade is visibly disappointed, pouting slightly. Annoyed, Alina scolds him, telling him to get his act together. She reminds him that this isn't a time for fun. They need to take this mission seriously. Meanwhile, Lo and Lululi have already discarded their cloaks and jumped into the water. The two splash and playfully shove each other, laughing like a future couple in the making. Alina watches them, tempted to join in, but her mood sours when she overhears Jade pervertedly imagining her in a swimsuit. Without hesitation, she grabs him by the collar and hurls him into the water, shouting that he's not allowed to think about that. The group huddles around a campfire. Lo gazes at the flickering flames with a nostalgic smile, recalling that the last time they did this was when Lululi was still training to be an adventurer. Alina is surprised, having assumed the entire party was made up of seasoned adventurers. Lululi shyly admits that her skill, Sigurth, didn't awaken at the same time as the others. Lo chuckles, bringing up the embarrassing times when she used to freak out at every monster that popped out of nowhere, often ending with her falling on her butt and being forced to heal herself. Lululi pouts, but Alina watches the two with a fond smile, enjoying their playful bickering. Despite her current strength, Lululi still struggles with confidence, attributing all her success to having a good skill. However, Jade and Lo reassure her, saying they don't care about how she measures her worth. As long as she does what she believes is right, she'll be fine. Their words are enough to cheer her up. Suddenly, Jade's eyes narrow as he spots a group approaching them. His instincts tell him that these are the people they've been searching for. The group of figures, dressed in gray hooded cloaks, is led by a pleasant-looking young man with glasses. Heights, the leader, greets them warmly. Jade does all the talking, keeping his tone friendly and casual. The two parties sit across from each other. It only takes a few sentences for Heights to make his move. He casually offers them a way to get stronger without training. He soon reveals the lure of a secret quest, claiming that once they accept it, they'll be granted access to a hidden dungeon. Jade plays along, acting curious to get more information out of him. Once he feels he has enough evidence, he abruptly stands and points his sword at Heights. Heights instantly recognizes him, his calm smile briefly faltering. Around them, the rest of Silversword springs into action, surrounding Heights' goons. Jade coldly informs Heights that they know his group is responsible for spreading the rumors and for luring adventurers in with promises of power. Despite having a sword aimed at his throat, Heights remains eerily calm. Suddenly, one of the hooded figures lunges at Jade, the two clashing blades with a metallic screech. The man, now crazed, mockingly asks if Silver Sword really has nothing better to do. However, he's soon sent flying, crashing into a tree as an enraged Alina slams him with her hammer. All of her frustration from the excessive overtime boils over. Heights' eyes widen slightly in fear as he recognizes the weapon, the executioner's hammer. He realizes too late that they've caught the attention of her. Alina, seething with rage, blames the entire group for nearly making her miss out on the Centennial Festival. Her eyes burn with fury as she prepares to crush them. Desperate, Heights draws a wand and casts Sigurth Mover. His group is enveloped in an eerie red glow and teleports away just in time. However, in their hasty escape, they leave one of their members behind, a red-haired, one-eyed, one-armed adventurer. Lululee's eyes widen in recognition. She softly whispers his name, Aiden. He was a boy she had once been in the same party with, a long time ago. Here's the revised version with all grammar and spelling fixed. Lululee didn't understand why Aiden was going to such lengths to spread misinformation. He shouted back that it was real, claiming she had no right to judge him. He mockingly nicknamed her Lululee the Murderer, shocking her and making her take a step back. The boy continued, accusing her of being the type of healer who would abandon her party without a second thought. Alina, on the other hand, didn't care what this trash can had to say. She was only to crush all forms of the rumor and was fully prepared to end him. Aiden jumped back, yelling that he was willing to tell her anything, but she didn't care. The next day, Alina was overworked, dealing with the massive crowd all taking on quests. She complained about how the adventurers still didn't care, even though the guild had officially debunked the rumor. Frantically, she worked to finish the mountain of paperwork. Lalia wanted to chime in on the situation, but she thought the more important question was why Mr. Jade was working overtime with them. It was obvious she was fangirling. Jade excitedly told her it was in hopes of taking Alina out on a date during the festival, making Lalia stagger back in surprise. Alina, unfazed, told Lalia to get back to work, insisting that it didn't matter. However, Lalia was having a moment, overjoyed for her senpai. Normally, Alina would turn down any man with an emotionless smile that clearly read she wasn't interested, shooting them down and breaking hearts. Lalia had genuinely feared Alina would end up alone. Jade was intrigued to hear that men had been after Alina, but Lalia ignored him. She was still lost in her daydream of Alina one day quitting the guild and joining upper society. Alina casually remarked that she didn't see why she'd ever marry Jade, completely forgetting that he was standing right there. Lalia didn't see the problem. To her, Jade was hot, macho, and the top-ranked adventurer aside from Executioner. Not understanding Alina's disinterest, Lalia pushed further. Annoyed, Alina angrily stood up and declared that certain joys in life couldn't be bought with money. Sweets after a long day of work, staying up all night because you don't have work. She wasn't single-minded enough to depend on another person's income to live her life. Hearing her rant, an unimpressed Lalia shook her head and asked the question everyone was thinking. Why, out of everyone, did he pick Miss Alina? After several more hours, Alina got up to stretch. Jade took this as his chance to suggest that they call it a day, thinking it was a good time to go home. However, Alina immediately turned him down, insisting there was still more work to be done. She did, however, allow Lalia to go home, while Jade stubbornly stayed, determined to remain until Alina was ready to leave. As Lalia left, she remarked on how much Alina helped her out, calling her a genuinely nice person. She turned to Jade and asked him to take good care of Alina. Jade agreed, and Lalia quickly got up, not wanting to be a third wheel. At the guild headquarters, 3 hooded figures dressed in white and gold cloaks gathered for a meeting. They discussed the ongoing rumors, but more importantly, focused on the Executioner, the one who had defeated a dark god with multiple Dia skills. They questioned Glenn, demanding to know how this was possible. Unwilling to rely on an unknown power, they pressed him for the Executioner's identity. However, Glenn humbly refused, insisting on respecting her privacy, as she wished to live in peace. That night, back at the mansion of the Silver Sword, Lululee was plagued by a nightmare of her past. In it, she relived the moment she fled from battle and failed to heal her teammates. The next day, Jade called for Lo and Lululee to help him with some dangerous training. As they walked, Lululee found it odd that Jade didn't question her past. When she brought it up, Lo casually stated that it didn't matter, which frightened her. Later, at headquarters, Lululee brought it up again, finally admitting that Aiden had been the tank for her first party. Seeing how important it was for her to talk about it, Lo agreed to listen. She recounted how, during their first attempt at the boss room, they had faced a wicked dragon. However, they were woefully underprepared. One by one, her party members fell, all on the verge of death. At the time, Lululi had been a beginner healer with a low mana pool. She only had enough mana left for one more spell, meaning she had to make an impossible decision. She could only save one of them. But in the end, she couldn't choose. Instead, she divided the spell's power, attempting to heal all of them. However, her gamble failed. The two members closest to death still died. Hearing her story, he understood where the nickname came from, but found it unfounded. After all, the attacker had failed to damage the beast, while the tank had failed to protect them. He managed to cheer her up, assuring her that he would have done the same thing in her place. Later, the two walked in on Jade, who was surrounded by a red glow as he charged one of his Sigurth moves. Before they could intervene, he collapsed from exhaustion. They quickly took him back to the research building, where they learned he had been attempting simultaneous skill activation. Jade had tried to combine multiple skills for more power, but his body wasn't strong enough to handle it. Just then, Shelley walked in. Jade immediately felt uncomfortable in her presence. She stared at him more like a lab rat than a person. After thoroughly examining him, she revealed the black core of the Dark God. She explained that the core was essentially the Dark God's actual body, compressed into a ball packed with countless magical sigils, essentially holding an endless arsenal of skills. Shelley, becoming increasingly intoxicated by the potential, rambled about how such power could easily wipe out the entire town. She also revealed a new piece of information. The man in black spreading the rumors was somehow connected to the Dark God's influence. The night before the festival, Alina was finally ready to celebrate. For once, she might actually be able to enjoy the festivities. The guild had put a gag order on quests. Instead of offering bonuses for adventurers, they now imposed penalties for anyone taking on a quest during the festival, effectively putting an end to the rumors. With her victory secured, Alina was in high spirits. Jade was just as happy. Her win meant he now had a date with her. To his surprise, Alina suddenly invited him out for drinks. Overjoyed by the unexpected offer, he eagerly accepted. The two went to a quiet bar where Jade got to enjoy the rare sight of an excited, carefree Alina drinking. Sometime later, an intoxicated Alina was slumped over the table, her cheeks flushed. Jade figured it was time to head home, gently helping her to her feet. However, in her drunken haze, she mistook him for Shrode. With a sweet, dreamy smile, she murmured, "I became a receptionist, just like you wanted, and I'm waiting to accept a quest from you," before drifting back into sleep. Jade was utterly stunned. His heart sank as he registered the name Shrode, clearly a man's name. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. The girl he liked might already belong to someone else. Late at night, Glenn returns to the guild headquarters and makes his way to his office. To his surprise, he is greeted by a drunk woman sipping wine, Jessica, who teasingly remarks that it's not good to keep a lady waiting. Recognizing how much he's aged, Glenn simply gives her a stern expression, knowing she's nothing but trouble. Still, he asks what she wants. Jessica claims it's business, saying she has something rather interesting to show him. She opens the chest she's carrying, revealing a book. Glenn takes a closer look and quickly guesses that it contains a secret quest. Jessica tells him not to look so shocked, boasting that there's plenty of talent in the Information Brokers Guild. As she stands to leave, Glenn stops her, demanding to know where she found the book and who gave it to her. However, she teasingly reminds him that she's not allowed to reveal her sources, as the guild's rules are absolute. Glenn's assistant, Feely, asks what they should do with the book. Glenn decides it needs to be locked away in the deepest floor of the guild's underground archive for safekeeping. As he stares at the former top party emblem on the book's cover, he finds himself thinking back to events from 15 years ago. The next night marks the start of the Centennial Festival. Fireworks light up the sky as a joyful Alina glances back at Jade, eagerly ready to visit all the places she marked in her day planner. Seeing her so happy, Jade is unexpectedly overcome with emotion. He tears up, telling her he's just glad to see her smile. Alina, confused by his sudden heartfelt confession, blushes and quickly tells him to shut up, flustered by the unexpected sentiment. Meanwhile, in the Adventurers Guild's underground prison, Lululi walks the first floor alone. As she moves through the corridor, she stumbles, haunted once again by her traumatic past. Lo, noticing her, calls out and reminds her that the festival is starting. However, Lululi storms off, snapping that he's free to enjoy it if he wants. She never asked him to come along with her. Ignoring her attitude, Lo questions what she plans to say to Aiden, making it clear that Aiden is obviously the reason she's here. Lululi ignores him until Lo coldly states that a guy like Aiden, who blames the healer, isn't the type to have a civil conversation. Lululi knows this, but still blames herself, believing that if she were better, the entire party would still be alive. Lo hears her self-loathing, but reminds her that the past doesn't matter. She's their party mate now, and they'll stand by her. Back at the festival, a delighted Alina runs ahead, biting into a juicy Rosagne beef skewer that melts in her mouth, pairing it with a gulp of beer. She's in total bliss, thinking, this is what dreams are made of. Jade, watching her, can't help but notice how much she eats. When he mentions it, Alina proudly declares that she's trained her gut to withstand even the heartiest of meals. After finishing her 2 sandwiches, Jade asks what's next. Without missing a beat, Alina gets up to go grab some dessert. On the main road, they spot a stall selling unique desserts and candy. As they approach, Jade remarks that it's a good start to day 1 of the festival. He then reaches out, offering his hand. Confused, Alina gives him a puzzled look. Jade explains that the streets are crowded and holding hands will prevent them from getting separated. Alina still doesn't see the point, indifferent about whether they spend the festival together or apart. However, Jade reminds her that he waited all day for this chance. He points out that she always has food in her hands, leaving him with no opportunity to hold hers. Now that he finally has his chance, he doesn't want to miss it. Alina, still more focused on the festival food than Jade's feelings, shrugs him off. But then she remembers. They were supposed to enjoy the festival together. Suddenly, she feels a pang of guilt, blushing slightly. Her noticeable silence makes Jade fear she has a stomachache. Panicked, he rushes off to find her medicine. Embarrassed, Alina quickly stops him, and shyly mumbling that since he helped her avoid overtime at work, she'll make it up to him this way. She stumbles over her words, clearly flustered. Meanwhile, on the 10th floor of the dungeon, Lululi and Lo visit Aiden. When Aiden notices them, he coldly asks if she came to pity him with her buddy. Once again, Lululi is consumed with guilt and apologizes. Seemingly ignoring her apology, Aiden abruptly goes off topic, mentioning that he once tried to get stronger the right way, even with only one arm. But one day, he heard about her success. He bitterly recalls how she was gifted a spot on the top team in the country. She couldn't believe she had been granted a Sigurth skill. After that, Aiden stopped giving a damn. Realizing his methods would never be enough, he became convinced that he needed a Dia skill to take his rightful place at the top. Now, he vows to eliminate her and claim what he believes should have been his. Seeing Aiden's hatred, Lo steps in. Noticing the man isn't even paying attention to Lululi anymore, the two decide to leave him behind. Later, as Aiden furiously slams his fists against the ground, he is greeted by Heights. Confused, Aiden demands to know why he's there. Heights casually tells him that he still has business on the floor below and asks if Aiden would like to help. With a sinister grin, he dangles a set of keys in front of him. Unlocking the cage, Heights informs Aiden that Rikaido is still looking to cause some commotion at the festival. Outside, Jade is in total bliss as he finally gets the happy ending he always wanted, walking the streets hand in hand with the girl he loves. Alina looks away, trying to sound indifferent to how much this moment means to him. Nearby, a jester-like figure performs water magic in front of a crowd. Jade enjoys the performance, but Alina finds something odd about it. The jester, named Rikaido, suddenly casts the ice spell Glacis. With a cold breeze, he freezes the audience, sending the crowd into a panic. People begin to flee as Rikaido fires ice spears at them. Jade quickly steps in, ready to defend the civilians, but Alina is frozen in shock. Her heaven, her happy place, the Centennial Festival, has been ruined. Rikaido talks like an edgy protagonist who despises the delusional world and declares his intention to destroy it. Alina lowers her head, a shadow cast over her face as she repeats to herself over and over, "He'll pay for this," unable to let it slide. The jester notices the hammer in her grip and instantly realizes he's made a mistake. His eyes widen in disbelief. Before he can react, Alina smashes him against a wall. "You even know what the Centennial Festival represents?" The man begs for his life, trying to explain himself, but she completely ignores him. Her voice trembles with rage as she says, "I've been looking forward to this day. I worked myself to the bone just so I could enjoy it, and then some little dipshit like you ruins it." With that, she smashes him to pieces. Meanwhile, as Lo and Lululi prepare to leave the prison, they are stopped by shadowy figures. They are confronted by Heights, a no-name extra, and Aiden. Lululi is shocked to see Aiden, demanding to know how he escaped. Heights lies, claiming the guild higher-ups allowed him to be released. Lo immediately knows it's a lie. Heights then pulls out the same book that Glenn was given by Jessica, revealing that he had to borrow it from the archives. He opens the book and Lo dashes toward him, trying to stop him, but it's too late. They are forcibly given a secret quest that takes place at the Forest of Eternity, the starting point for adventurers. The mission: defeat all the floor bosses. Heights grins smugly, declaring that Silver Sword will be accepting the quest. Lo, confused, questions why they would agree to such a thing. However, Heights only flashes a sinister smile. He then uses his Sigurth ability to teleport them, revealing their true intention: to fight the Dark God. Back at the town square, people are being carted off to the hospital and nearby shelters as the festival is temporarily canceled. Jade rushes back to Alina, excitedly telling her the good news. The festival will be back soon, since the culprit was caught and no one was seriously injured. To his surprise, Alina bursts into tears of joy. Suddenly, Lo and Lululi arrive, shouting to get their attention. They inform Jade and Alina about the events at the prison. Realizing the severity of the situation, Jade tells them he'll grab his gear to stop the Dark God from being resurrected. Alina, however, is conflicted. She wants to continue their date, the day she had been planning and looking forward to all year. Jade reassures her that she can still enjoy the festival and urges her to stay. But despite her longing for the festival, she ultimately decides to go with him. Inside the forest, the party faces off against Heights and his group. Lo attacks first with Imber, freezing the lower half of their enemies. However, something incredibly stupid happens. A no-name character in Heights' party uses his skill and self-destructs. Apparently, Heights had no idea what the guy's ability did, and it turns out it exchanges his life for his party's. Aiden, now having second thoughts, confronts Heights. This isn't what Heights promised. He made it sound like they'd resurrect the Dark God and gain a skill, not sacrifice themselves. But Heights coldly reveals that his true plan is to offer them up to please the deity. He then turns to Lo, taunting him. "You gonna freeze me now?" For some reason, Lo hesitates, despite the obvious answer being yes. Jade steps in front of Lo, demanding to know why Heights is doing all this. Heights gives them a cold, emotionless look and launches into a speech about how they wouldn't understand. They were blessed with amazing skills, enabling them to join the top party and enjoy the finer things in life. But for Heights, his only useful ability is escaping, a skill he considers worthless, which honestly isn't that bad. Like, bro could just be Minato or something, only to be greeted with a hand thrust through his chest. A small girl calls him pathetic. She introduces herself as Vienna, alongside her twin sister Fienna, the Dark Gods. Both wield the ability Dia Morte. The sisters unleash a flurry of dark arrows, forcing Jade and the others to go on the defensive. Jade signals Lululi, who casts a revived shield on him. This draws the attention of the more aggressive sister, Vienna, who decides to target him, mainly because she thinks he's hot. However, before her attack can land, Alina steps in and smacks it away. She then charges at Vienna, but before Alina can finish Vienna off, Vienna steps in the way. Her body morphs into a black goo-like substance. Without hesitation, she does the same to Vienna, merging with her sister. The two regenerate instantly, their combined power growing stronger. Alina immediately realizes this will be a tough fight, while Lo quickly theorizes that they'll need to destroy both cores simultaneously to defeat them. Vienna draws her bow, licking her lips as she says she's starving after being sealed for so long, casually asking if there's food on the surface. However, her eyes gleam with sadistic hunger as she decides she wants to devour the hot guy first. Jade glances at Alina and calmly declares that he'll take on Vienna while she handles Fienna. Alina briefly wonders if he can handle a Dia skill, but Jade confidently assures her that he has a plan. Vienna fires her arrow, the projectile whizzing past Jade's head with terrifying speed, obliterating the stone structure behind him. Without missing a beat, Jade slams his shield into the ground, activating Sigurth Wall. Leaving his shield embedded in the ground, he uses his skill remotely, summoning layered barriers in 4 separate locations. He then activates Sigurth Blood, his veins pulsing with dark red energy. Meanwhile, Lo and Lululi hide behind a boulder, watching in confusion, wondering what Jade is trying to pull off. With Fienna keeping Alina occupied, Vienna mocks Jade, laughing at his seemingly random and foolish movements. However, Jade suddenly performs Milia, a devastating technique that sends a wave of dark red energy crashing into the barriers he set up. The combined force reverberates violently, shaking the ground and sending shockwaves colliding into his shield from all sides. Using this as cover, Jade charges forward, skillfully blocking Vienna's arrows with his shield, shocking everyone. Then, in a swift maneuver, he jumps and seamlessly transfers the skill to his sword, his blade now glowing with the same dark energy. With a precise strike, he pierces Vienna's throat. At the same time, Alina deals the finishing blow to Vienna, taking down the other twin. Vienna, clutching her throat, stares in disbelief at their defeat. However, just when they think it's over, Jade's body suddenly seizes up. The after effects of his skills hit him all at once, sending sharp pain coursing through his limbs. Alina rushes to him concerned and questions the nature of his skill. Jade simply brushes it off, saying it's the fruit of his training. Before they can catch their breath, Vienna's snarky voice cuts through the moment. Despite her injuries, she smugly points an arrow at them, her fury making her more dangerous. Infuriated at being bested, she demands more power. With a wicked grin, she suddenly aims at Aiden and fires. Aiden, too shocked to react, stands frozen. At the last moment, Lo rushes in, shoving Aiden out of the way, saving him from the fatal shot. Lo, showing his strength, effortlessly hoists Aiden over his shoulder and carries him out of the room with ease. Vienna, growing impatient, clicks her tongue in annoyance. She coldly orders her sister to do that thing. Without hesitation, Vienna reveals her neck, exposing her core. To Alina's horror, Vienna devours her sister, absorbing her entirely. The transformation is immediate. Vienna's body elongates, her height now towering over them. Her once human features morph into something monstrous. Her skin turns ashen gray, veins bulging and pulsating violently. 4 massive, muscular arms sprout from her torso, her voice now a distorted, monotone echo. She is no longer Vienna, she is now Vilfina. Any trace of her original personality is gone. Alina steps in, raising her hammer to intercept Vilfina's next attack. She swings with all her might, aiming to destroy the arrow. However, something strange happens. The arrow phases through the hammer and then explodes on impact. The blast disintegrates Alina's hammer into dust, leaving her completely exposed. Jade, seeing her defenseless, instantly throws his weapons aside and rushes to her, grabbing her in time to carry her to safety. He brings her back to Lululi, who quickly examines her. To their horror, her injury is no ordinary wound. Healing magic has no effect on her. Desperate, Jade begs Lululi to remove the blessing she placed on him and transfer it to Alina instead. Lululi complies, but even with the blessing, Alina's condition doesn't improve. Suddenly, the annoying voice of a little girl echoes through the room. It's Vilfina, taunting them. She cruelly declares that it's useless, revealing the terrible truth. The power they were struck with originates from death itself. Alina is as good as dead. Jade grits his teeth and snarls at her to shut up, furiously refusing to accept Alina's fate. Determined not to let her die, he charges out again, telling Lululi to look after Alina. Jade recklessly tries to use Milia again, despite his body already being pushed to its limit. His limbs tremble violently, his muscles locking up, and his body begins to shut down like a malfunctioning machine. Vilfina watches him struggle, finding it all immensely amusing. With a cruel smirk, she mocks him, reminding him of his earlier promise to protect Alina. Yet now, the so-called protector was crumpled on the ground, taking a dirt nap. Slowly, Vilfina strides toward Alina, her massive frame looming over her. She grins wickedly, raising her arrow, prepared to end her once and for all. Jade suddenly realized how to defeat the sisters. He managed to provoke Vienna, causing her to aim at him. As she attacked, he recalled the meaning behind the Dia emblem halves, taunting her by calling her a failure. He sneered that she was only half a dark god and needed to transform fully to become one. However, in doing so, she would lose all her intelligence and free will. He pointed out that her half-mark was proof of her imperfection. Vienna tried to calm her down, but Vienna couldn't stand being reminded of her flaw. Enraged, she vowed to devour Jade. Jade gritted his teeth and stood up, pushing his body to its limit once again. Summoning his strength, he performed Milia. Meanwhile, Lululi found herself in a situation eerily similar to the one from all those years ago. Once again, she was unable to save someone she cared about, this time, Alina. However, Alina didn't care anymore. She refused to let anyone die, not even that idiot Jade. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself up, prepared to fight. Seeing Alina's unwavering determination inspired Lululi to push her own limits. Determined to grow, she poured every last drop of her remaining mana into healing Alina. It was the first time she had ever come this close to passing out. Outside the labyrinth, Lo finally confronted Aiden, eager to give him a piece of his mind. He despised the man, having always hated the way Aiden put his friend down. With a venomous glare, Lo ordered him to leave and run away, just like he always did. He warned him not to show his face in front of his friend ever again, or else, Lo threatened coldly, he'd make him disappear. Back inside, Luli managed to overcome the curse and successfully healed Alina. However, the constant pain had rendered Alina unconscious. Luli frantically shook her, trying to wake her up, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Jade was still fighting. He had lost so much blood that he no longer remembered where he was or what he was even fighting for. In Alina's mind, she was transported back 2 years ago. She was working as a receptionist, fondly remembering the send-off part of the festival, a ceremony where they honored the souls of fallen adventurers. She recalled crying while remembering Shroud, the grief of her loss leaving her weary of loneliness. Suddenly, a green glow emerged from her pocket. Reaching for it, she found the gem Jade had given her. In a burst of strength, she saved Jade at the last second, screaming at him in frustration. "Why are you always on the verge of death?" she yelled. Jade smiled weakly upon seeing her, the relief washing over his face before he finally passed out. This pushed the two sisters to become one again, merging into Vilfina. Alina grew serious, immediately activating Dia Break. With their cores fused together, she was able to easily overpower them in a single attack. Back at the festival, Alina finally got to enjoy day 2. She was surprised when she spotted Jade approaching her. "Why are you here?" she asked, caught off guard. Jade casually claimed that he only got half a day off, so technically she should let him tag along. Normally, she would have refused, but to her own surprise, she agreed. The two wandered through the festival together and eventually came across the candlelight flower ritual. As they prepared to light one, Alina unexpectedly opened up about Shroud. With a heartfelt voice, she confessed that he was someone she admired deeply. Then, without thinking, she softly added, "So, don't you die on me, okay?" Realizing what she had just said, her face flushed, and she immediately tried to downplay it. Just then, the blonde adventurer from a few weeks ago spotted her. With a teasing grin, he called out, "Hey, are you on a date with the captain of Silver Sword?" Flustered, Alina quickly brushed it off, claiming Jade had more or less forced her into it, and she just couldn't refuse. Jade, however, felt his reputation about to take a nosedive. To his surprise, they thanked Alina instead of teasing her. "Hey, thanks for always having the shortest line with barely any wait time," one of them slurred. "We really appreciate your hard work." Seeing how the adventurers viewed her, Alina's heart swelled. She realized how hard she had been pushing herself for them. "You guys should really go to another line next time, so I won't have so much work." Later, as people lit their lanterns and sent them into the sky, Jade turned to her. "You know," he said softly, "they say this event is meant for honoring the souls of the departed, but really it's for the people still living, so they don't spend the rest of their lives drowning in grief." Hearing this, Alina's eyes softened. She finally understood. She had been carrying so much weight on her shoulders, but in that moment, she realized she didn't have to bear it alone. Smiling, she joined Jade and his friends as they headed out for drinks, determined to have fun. Above, Alina can hear the screeches of overgrown spiders echoing through the dungeon. Annoyed, she launches into her usual rant about how these bugs have overstayed their welcome, lounging comfortably in their webs because weak adventurers can't even complete a simple dungeon. Fueled by a fiery rage, thanks to all the overtime she's been forced to work, Alina charges in and annihilates the arachne spider in a single blow. Jade watches in awe but isn't particularly surprised by her overwhelming power, though he is a little stunned that she managed to break straight through the labyrinth walls, creating a shortcut directly to the boss room. Alina casually explains that she's only here because the guild is short-staffed, grumbling about how much she hates doing new employee training. She swings her hammer down, shattering the head of another spider, practically pulverizing the physical manifestation of her overtime stress. Lo jokes that the spider probably never imagined it would be defeated by a receptionist of all people. Jade, still trying to make sense of it, questions why someone as experienced as Alina would even have to deal with new employee training. However, Alina's expression hardens, deadly serious. With piercing determination, she declares that her goal is to eliminate all overtime once and for all. At the guild headquarters, during a meeting with her superior, Alina listens as the man reveals that they've been flagged by HQ due to the absurd number of overtime hours. They've even received a formal warning. Hearing this, Alina perks up, convinced that this is the moment she's been waiting for, the perfect opportunity to finally gain extra receptionist support. However, her hopes are immediately crushed. Instead of hiring more staff, the boss announces a productivity improvement contest. The employee with the best idea will win a single day off on their birthday. Alina visibly crumbles. This wasn't the solution she was hoping for. Meanwhile, Lalia doesn't see the problem. She actually wants her birthday off. Curious, she asks how her senpai spends hers. Alina flatly responds that she just works, goes home, and sleeps. Lalia stares at her in deadpan monotone, slowly losing all hope for her, realizing that Alina has completely wasted away her better years. Lalia sighs in defeat, admitting that she has no clue how to improve their current working conditions. Alina reassures her that she's not alone in that. Later, Alina takes a glance at the new employee training paper, her eyes suddenly sparkling when she spots a familiar name. Instructor Rosta Rubery. It turns out that Roesta was a legendary inspiration for all receptionists, a pioneer who transformed the position from dull and mundane into one that was stylish, efficient, and desirable for women. She was responsible for reforming the receptionist uniforms, making them both comfortable and cute, combining practicality with appealing customer service aesthetics. Rosta even wrote a weirdly popular book titled If You Want to Be a Popular Receptionist, Eat Beans, which somehow became a bestseller. However, what truly shocks Lalia is that Alina never cared about the popularity tips or the cute gimmicks. Instead, she idolized Rosta for her cleric skills, which allowed her to efficiently navigate and direct adventurers who would swamp her counter during rush hours. Inspired by Rosta's example, Alina feels her determination reignite. With renewed motivation, she vows to destroy all the overtime she's been saddled with. Lalia, however, cuts in with a grim reminder: the overtime problem isn't going away anytime soon. Ever since the new dungeon was discovered, the receptionist team has been drowning in paperwork, which is why Alina has been venturing out herself to clear it. Jade, trying to lighten the mood, casually asks when her birthday is, hoping to make a meaningful gesture. Without hesitation, Alina coldly shuts him down, refusing to answer. Jade is left crestfallen. Lululi suddenly chimes in, mentioning that they'll soon be doing a demo battle for newbie adventurers. Alina immediately loses interest the moment she hears that Jade will be there, finding the idea boring. Jade, eyes wide with exaggerated anime tears, assuming that he'll just stand around in the background as usual, Alina dismissively comments that it'll be a snooze fest. However, Jade unexpectedly pushes back. With newfound determination, he declares that his last battle taught him something valuable. With serious eyes, he promises that from now on, he'll only do things that improve her opinion of him. Without missing a beat, Alina cuts in flatly. Just shut up, breathe, and keep living then. Jade visibly deflates, slumping in defeat. Lo, feeling a twinge of sympathy for his friend, realizes that Jade will first need to be viewed as a human in Alina's eyes before he stands any chance of making progress. Later, at the Adventurers Guild headquarters, Alina brings an excited Lalia along. The younger girl is completely awestruck by the massive size of the building. Seeing her wide-eyed wonder, Alina offers to give her a tour, casually mentioning that she knows the layout well. Lalia, impressed, assumes that Alina must come here often. Inside, the receptionist girls are given a lesson on the history of silver swords. The guild's proudest achievement was conquering the Fortress of Ash, an S-rank dungeon, 2 generations ago. Jade listens attentively to the lesson, but some of the other adventurers have a different focus. They're too busy checking out the women. Receptionists at this particular guild have a reputation for being ridiculously hot, and some of the male adventurers are already brainstorming how to rizz up the younger girls. Naturally, Alina catches the most attention. With her fit figure, black hair, green eyes, and generous chest size, she becomes an instant target of admiration and fantasy. Jade hated hearing that men were checking out Alina, his mind instantly recalling their faces with a scowl. Their guide then led them to a statue dedicated to honoring the Silver Sword Guildmasters party and their generation. The guide explained how they had risked their lives countless times. In the garden, Glenn suddenly stopped time to speak privately with Alina. The old man thanked her for her service the other day, admitting that without her, his party would have died. However, Alina completely ignored his gratitude and instead asked if he was going to keep his promise to hire more receptionists. This caught Glenn off guard, as he had completely forgotten about it. Panicked, Glenn tried to deflect, insisting that he was busy with a lot of other things. However, Alina was relentless, telling the old man that he couldn't escape this, just as overtime waited for no one. She firmly demanded that he keep his promise. Realizing he was cornered, Glenn backed off, getting the message loud and clear. Wishing her luck in today's training, he added that he would need her again in the future. Confused, Alina asked why, pointing out that it wasn't like there were tons of dark gods running around. Glenn didn't answer, simply turning and leaving. Time resumed, and the tour guide continued, mentioning that the current Silver Sword party would be giving them a live combat demonstration. The moment the older woman announced this, the girls erupted into excited cheers, blushing at the prospect of meeting such attractive celebrities. They lost their minds in admiration as they watched Jade slay a raging wolf, fangirling like they were at a concert. Some of them even fainted from excitement, while Alina silently watched from the sidelines, feeling a little embarrassed by the over-the-top reactions. Lalia, however, was completely pumped up, refusing to lose. When the Silver Sword party introduced themselves, the girls stared at Jade with hearts in their eyes. As he made eye contact with Alina, she shot him a glare, warning him with a sharp look not to say her name out loud. To her surprise, the boy actually looked away. When the ladies were given the chance to ask questions, they immediately began shouting over each other, bombarding Jade with questions about whether he had a girlfriend or what his type was. The instructors had to remind them to behave with the dignity befitting a receptionist. Despite herself, Alina felt a small pang of jealousy as she watched the girls crowd around Jade. At the training hall, the girls were assigned to stay in an old, ancient building with thick vines creeping up its sides. The creepy mansion was rumored to be haunted, which immediately unnerved Lalia. She recalled hearing that the building was an abandoned dormitory, supposedly filled with ghosts. Alina, unfazed, didn't believe the rumors and headed straight to their assigned room. Suddenly, the doorknob began to rattle, making Lalia go ghostly pale with fear. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a figure. To their relief, it was the frightened form of Lulu Lee. She explained that Silver Sword was also staying in the mansion for training. However, Lulu Lee was terrified because she had to sleep alone in her room, and she was convinced the place was haunted. Unknowingly, Lulu Lee began to tell them a scary story, revealing the history of the mansion. She explained that it was connected to an S-rank dungeon where the Silver Sword party had once fought. The building was linked to the dead. She continued with the tale, describing how the mansion was once part of the Fortress of Ash, where the boss monster still lurked, waiting to claim more victims. She even mentioned sightings of people in black robes wandering the grounds. Alina remained unimpressed by the spooky story, while Lalia clung to her in terror. When Lalia glanced at Alina, she couldn't help but ask why she wasn't afraid. Alina casually attributed it to being a person who worked long overnight shifts. She was so accustomed to being in dark places that it no longer fazed her. Seeing how sad her senpai's life seemed, Lalia dramatically declared that if she won the training competition's prize, she would give it to Alina. She imagined her using it to spend a birthday with Mr. Jade. Alina flatly refused, wondering why on earth she would spend her birthday with him. Curious, Lulu asked what she would do instead. Alina's eyes lit up with genuine joy as she eagerly described her perfect birthday. First, she'd sleep in until the afternoon, then enjoy a light lunch, laze around for the rest of the day, sleep some more, and finally have a big dinner. For her, escaping the hardships of adulthood with a cozy, carefree break was the perfect celebration. Lulu sighed, realizing how tough being an adult was. Compared to Alina's exhausting life, her own job seemed more like playtime. Still, Lulu was convinced that if she won, Jade would definitely find out and try to see Alina. Alina didn't understand why he would bother. Lalia, growing more curious, shyly asked if the two of them had broken up or had a fight. She mentioned how Jade hadn't spoken to Alina at all during their training. Lulu, however, excitedly chimed in, insisting that it was all part of Jade's self-improvement initiative. She claimed that he was intentionally not chasing after or speaking to Alina, his way of bettering himself. Alina was happy about it, but Lalia wasn't buying it. Still on the topic of love, Lulu suddenly asked about Lalia's love life. Alina immediately started to sweat drop. Lalia was the biggest fan of the executioner and even carried around a doll of him. When Lalia pulled out the doll, Lulu was completely thrown off guard. She glanced at Alina, who gave her a subtle nod, confirming that she had never revealed Lalia's obsession. Desperate, Lalia suddenly begged Lulu to add the executioner to Silver Sword, terrified that if they didn't, he might one day disappear without a trace. Meanwhile, in the boys' room, the conversation was far more serious. They were discussing the recent events involving heights. Jade was convinced that someone had allowed him entry into restricted areas, making it clear that there was a spy in their ranks. The next day, their training began, led by none other than Rosetta Ruberry. For Alina, this wasn't just a lecture, it was a battle. Rosetta was the only woman capable of ensuring she would never have to deal with overtime again. When Rosetta finished her lecture and opened the floor for questions, Alina was the first to shoot her hand into the air and stand up. Rosetta, amused by her eagerness, called on her. Alina, with all the conviction in the world, asked the most important question: how do I eliminate overtime? Rosetta, clearly impressed, could tell that this was someone who truly cared about her profession. However, just when Alina thought she was finally going to receive the sacred answer she had been waiting for, Rosetta took the conversation in the opposite direction. With a beaming smile, she delivered her advice. You need to work more. At least 100 hours of overtime a month. Give your life to the job. The pain of overtime can only be overcome by the thought of helping happy customers. She spoke with such genuine devotion that she appeared like a true saint. This ultra-workaholic mindset, one that left no room for anything else in life, completely shattered Alina's soul. Jade, concerned, turned to Lalia and asked, "What just happened?" With a solemn look, Lalia explained, "She was exposed to the 'I love my job' aura, and it drove her mad." Alina had officially checked out. The next day, during the lecture, a bored Alina looks down at some of the younger girls talking about Mr. Jade, as they were told that he visits their branch building often. Both have plans to get his attention with this lucky opportunity, but Alina doesn't see what the big deal is about having him around. Then, she thinks back to her birthday vacation, telling herself to stay focused and come up with a plan to win. Just then, she notices Jade walking by. He stops to wave to her, then to her surprise, he walks away without looking back at her. She's reminded of the self-improvement journey he's on, as he'd normally lose his mind and go crazy for her. She likes not having to wear her business smile with him around or hide her true feelings, but then scolds herself for thinking about this. Just now, Jade came back from a meeting with the higher-ups of the Adventurers Guild, where they expressed how disappointed they were in him. The stuffy old men yell at him for not bringing in results. Only the guildmaster, Glenn, defends him, asking that they give him more time. To be fair, all of this is so stupid, as none of them up there can do Jade's job, and they would only get worse results if they disbanded and tried again. So when Glenn defends him, and the old man tells them there's more to strength than just boasting about your abilities, as when it's time to defend something, most would fail. Jade wants to improve and prove that Glenn was right to trust him. He then notices that Glenn is standing by the statue of his old party. Glenn notices his defeated look and offers some words. 2 generations ago, his party conquered the Fortress of Ash, with everyone dying, including the healer, Lynn Rich. Today is the anniversary of her death. He tells the young man that he's too young to be having regrets, as he learned to compliment the living. He tells Jade that he will most likely be the next guildmaster, with him and the young Dia skill girls being the pillars for the next generation, reaffirming that he is indeed strong. Glenn's secretary soon arrives, looking for her boss. Jade then asks, out of the blue, if the old man has been acting strange lately. The secretary picks up on his words and reassures him that the old man isn't the man in black, as he's not foolish enough to endanger the entire world. Jade looks down, understanding, and the woman adds that he is the type to slack off and use his powers to run away. All jokes aside, she says that the old man used to be cold, stubborn, and selfish, but he's changed over the years in that way. This all changed when he raised Lynn like an orphan girl who was not related to him by blood, becoming the most important thing in the world for him. As the day concludes, Lalia and Alina sit on a bench, with Lalia complaining about how tired she is. She doesn't understand how Alina isn't tired. Alina tells her the trick is to not appear sleepy in front of people and to switch between closing each eye every so often. Seeing her, Lalia doesn't know if she's ever seen a person she pitied more. Just then, both of their stomachs ache, as they're both hungry, with Lalia going back to the cafeteria to check if there's anything left. As soon as she leaves, one of the guild employees approaches Alina, trying to start a conversation as he notices she works at Iffle counter. But he quickly makes it clear he's creepy, as he mutters to himself that all the girls at her job are pretty. He then tries to act like a senpai, suggesting he's here to show her how to do her job, figuring she's new and there's a lot she needs to learn. With him sitting down next to her, it's clear he has no game. Alina tries to leave and turn him down, but the guy grabs her. What makes it worse is that he thinks he's about to get laid. As she tells him to drop it, he proceeds and tries to use his job as a senior staffer over a little newbie. Jade then grabs him, having heard the entire conversation, asking what kind of stress he was about to relieve. The man panics, and Jade remembers his face from yesterday when he was ogling the receptionist. In a polite way, Jade says that he can have him fired if he's too stressed out. Alina watches as the man apologizes and runs away, not believing there are guys like this even at the guild. Jade then walks away like they're strangers, and Alina stops him, feeling embarrassed, as normally he wouldn't leave her alone. She thanks him, but after thinking about it, she yells at him, as the imagined improvement is having the opposite effect. This shatters Jade's image, with Alina mad that he's been so distant lately. She yells at him for this and then tells him to go back to his normal self, as this new him is throwing her off. Just as the two make up, Lalia comes back with a bag of sandwiches. When she returns, she then asks Jade about the rumors she's heard about the Reaper being something that appears in the training hall. All of it sounds like a baseless rumor, with Alina agreeing, but then Lalia mentions something about people in black robes, and that gets Jade's attention. Just as Jade agrees to look into it, he overhears some of the staff at the guild talking about a new dungeon being discovered called the Civi Cathedral. As they argue about what to do, they mention that the dungeon is huge, with 7 floors. As they leave, Alina and Lalia are terrified, not from fighting, but because of the amount of paperwork they'll have to do, not to mention the adventurers wanting to take on the quest and the overtime paperwork. Alina already knows she'll have to fight the boss in secret. Alina is sure that since they're in training at the moment, they surely won't have to deal with this. But then a beautiful-looking woman from the office greets them. She has a carriage full of unprocessed quest applications for them. Alina loses it, realizing she not only has to go to training classes, but also has to work during her downtime, asking herself why she puts up with this. She then releases an aura so powerful that even a ghost would be scared of it. She cries anime tears as her only sliver of peace was taken away as she can't escape her job. She manages to pump up Lalia to finish her work, but then questions why the girl is placing salt around her desk. Lalia says it's to ward off spirits, and she begs Alina again not to sleep before her, as she's afraid. Meanwhile, that night, Jade is training alone as he performs Milia again, but his body can't handle it. His friends urge him to stop for today, but the man is still stubborn. Jade listens to his friends as they take a break, discussing the recent rumors about the Man in Black. They believe he's the one who turned Rufus against them and allowed Heights to join the guild. Lululi also suspects that Glenn could be the person behind this, though she doesn't want to believe it. If that were the case, she reasons he wouldn't let someone like Alina, who has the power to defeat a dark god, run free. Lo acknowledges how contradictory that sounds, but he can't shake the feeling. Lululi can't comprehend the possibility and insists that they're both wrong for suspecting Glenn. At the same time, the researcher Shelley is examining the dark god's core, astonished by the fact that it contains what seems like an endless amount of Dia skills. She reflects on recent events, struggling to understand why their ancestors created such powerful relics. Shelley looks at a sketch of them, showing their skills, but she can't see the point. As she continues to ponder, she notices someone outside her room. That's when she realizes it would just be easier to give humans these Dia skills. She turns around to see the Man in Black wearing a skull mask. Before she can call for help, she is knocked unconscious. Later, Lalia looks up from her papers to see that Alina has fallen asleep, which frightens her since she is now the only one awake in the creepy house. She still believes it's haunted by ghosts. Just then, the doorknob begins to rattle, which only fuels her fear. When the door finally opens, no one is there. She turns around and sees the man who had been bothering Alina earlier. He ghostly whispers that he hates her. Lalia freaks out and throws salt at him, treating it like pepper spray. The noise wakes Alina, who sees the man floating in their room with the papers levitating in the air. Lalia, convinced he's a ghost, panics even more. Alina, realizing the situation, mutters that even ghosts want her to work overtime. She punches the man in the stomach, turning him to dust. The two go to inform Jade, but he's not too shocked by this turn of events. However, as they're walking, Lalia begins to shake and freak out. She suddenly points toward another ghost, causing the group to chase after it, leaving her behind. Inside the mansion, the Man in Black reappears. A magic circle forms around them, and he darkly declares that he has waited so long for this moment. He pulls a lever from a statue, activating a trapdoor. Alina wakes up after being unconscious from the fall, grabbing her head. She hears from underneath her, with it turning out to be an injured Jade who broke her fall. Alina soon gets up to check on him, but she stops after he says that he's fine and would rather spend some more time under her. The rest of the group wakes up with them all agreeing that sucked. Jade looks at the ceiling to see that the hole has vanished from the surface, with him having no knowledge this place existed under the guild headquarters. Lululi gets scared as she believes this place is the realm of the dead, being the place the Reaper takes adventurers to eat their souls. Lo then puts a hole in her theory, as shouldn't a supernatural being use magic or mystical powers? But the one they faced used a trapdoor. Jade believes that this is the hidden floor of the Fortress of Ash. Jade's serious tone catches them off guard as he reveals that adventurers disappeared and had to fight on these floors, with hidden floors usually having high-level monsters. Jade tells them they have to stay together, as it would be impossible to complete the dungeon if they split up. Alina can't believe that no one filed this dungeon, as this will only create more work for her. as stupid adventurers will go missing fighting here and be too weak to stop it. She crumbles as her hopes of escaping overtime are shattered. She cries as some ghost came back just to give her more work. Jade, being a good boyfriend, tries to comfort her by saying he'd come and help if she gets overtime. Soon, the man in black appears. Jade is on alert, as he didn't even sense this man, with it appearing as if he stopped time and just appeared. Jade questions who this man is, but the man in black tells him he already knows, taking off to reveal the face of their leader, the Guildmaster. Glenn starts to scold the young man as he should have known from their last conversation. Glenn reveals that he was vulnerable and was worried he'd be cut down right there, but luckily the conversation about his daughter made Jade lower his guard, telling him that next time he needs to be more aware and be proactive if he suspects someone, telling him that his naive nature will get him killed one of these days, as he's too trusting. Jade begins to yell at him, demanding an explanation for all this. Jade is mad by this betrayal, as the reason he tried to not suspect the old man is because he believed in them. Asking if it was all a lie, did he say that so he could use them later on? Instead of answering, Glenn disappears and tells them to follow him, as he'd rather show them. Lululi cries as she believes this was true. Jade tells her that this is the reality and they must face it. Alina is serious and asked when the group started to suspect him. Jade recalls the incident with Heights when he got the key to the prison and let free some prisoners. The only person that has that ability is the Guildmaster. The group follows after the Guildmaster. In a flashback, a much younger Glenn is being informed by his master that he needs to raise a white-haired orphan girl that the master found. Glenn doesn't understand why he's entrusted with the child rather than an orphanage. The Guildmaster at the time gives a harsh but accurate assessment of Glenn, as the young man doesn't value his comrades as he often leaves them to die, having not an ounce of humanity in him. So this is a way to teach him the value of a human life. Glenn remarks that there's nothing in the law to bind him into taking care of the orphan, as the Guildmaster doesn't have the authority to do it. The old man responds that this is simply training for him to have a family. Glenn doesn't see how this could help him in any way, but is soon interrupted by the touch of the girl as she looks at him and says she's hungry. In the present, Glenn appears at a graveyard of sorts, housing 3 tombstones and the weapons of the fallen. The group enters the room, and Alina is able to identify that this is the boss's room. Glenn interrupts, saying it used to belong to the previous boss, but now acts as the resting spot for the Silver Sword's second generation. He reveals in a heartbreaking memory that his team was one critical strike away from defeating the dragon, but right before that, his team was burned to a crisp in the blink of an eye, including his daughter. Being the only survivor, over time, he learned of a way to bring the dead back to life, and so he rebuilt the Fortress of Ash underneath the guild headquarters. Turning back time takes more effort than anyone realizes, as he had to put everything exactly as it was all those years ago. The area had to be the same, the pillars, the dirt. Hearing this, Jade doesn't understand, as the Guildmaster's power only allows him to observe, so he can't understand the purpose of this. Glenn reveals that in order to achieve his goal, he must become a dark god, needing its core. This shocks the group, as the Guildmaster explains that this was the reason he became a Guildmaster in the first place. They weren't the first to suspect him. He's been doing this for decades. The only problem he faced was finding strong enough adventurers capable of fighting a dark god and securing a core, which is why when he found the young lady, he had to give his thanks to the gods for the first time in a while. He recalls their first battle when he mistook her for a dark god because of the raw power she showed. Alina could fight a dark god on equal footing. Jade is enraged, hearing that the Guildmaster had intended her to fight dark gods from the beginning. Glenn admits he's right. He used Rufus and Heights, as well as anything else that could get him closer to his objective. He didn't expect the adventurers to be so weak as to need the help of a receptionist. He apologizes for getting Jade involved, but says he did it because it was the only way to get Alina to fight the dark god. She would never leave him behind to be killed. Jade's had enough and punches the man. This man had no idea how Alina felt having to fight to protect people she cares about, as the trauma from her past was haunting her the entire time. As he goes to punch Glenn again, Alina stops him. She's supposed to be the one upset right now. Alina then turns to Glenn, asking if he really got her involved for some plan to bring back his daughter. Glenn says yes. He reveals that the people they've fought so far are like him. They tore apart what makes them human to achieve their goal. He then reveals the dark core in his hand. In the past, the little girl he was told to take care of grew attached to him, always calling him Dad. He didn't like this and told her where the money was stored in case he died and couldn't provide for her anymore. Lynn always hated these talks. It always seemed like she was reading his will every time he left. Glenn told her if she didn't like this, she needed to hurry up and grow into an adventurer so she could take care of herself. Lynn nodded her head agreeing as she wanted to join Silver Sword. Glenn told her this goal wouldn't be easy. She needed to prove she was the best. But the little girl didn't care. She just wanted to be next to her father so he wouldn't feel lonely. She said she loved him and hoped he'd say the same. Glenn reminds her that she's nothing more than a responsibility dumped on him by the guildmaster, wanting to know what it would take for her to hate him. Lynn reveals that she's already been through worse. She was on the cold streets of the alley, begging, but still no one paid attention to her or helped. But instead of those blank looks ignoring her, he looked at her. Even if he doesn't love her, that's enough to keep her going. Glenn never heard something so sad in all his life as an adventurer. Glenn then turns to Alina, asking her to fulfill his last wish, as when he activates this core, his soul will be given to the Dark God. So he tells her when that happens, he wants her to kill him. He suddenly activates his skill, Dia Kronos. The core fills him with deep pain as he begins to scream. His limbs turn red as he begins to morph, falling to the ground. Alina opens her eyes to see she was the only one affected, taken to a memory of the past. She saw Glenn holding the lifeless body of his daughter, her body nothing but ash, crying, asking himself, why? The girl's body crumbles and Glenn looks to be at his lowest. Just then, Glenn is called out by a man wishing to bestow upon him the means to escape his grief. The memory stops and, in the present, Glenn fails. He wasn't able to turn back time. Alina then rushes in, apologizing as she must stop him. Glenn moves and asks to be given a second chance. Alina tries to reason with him, saying he wouldn't be able to enjoy bringing her back because he'd be dead. Glenn teleports and activates his skill again, but even though he gets closer, Lynn's body crumbles just like it did before. Glenn can't understand why it still won't work. Suddenly, black tentacles emerge from the core and overpower Glenn, taking over his body. The group then hears the voice of someone calling Glenn a foolish human, revealing a dark emblem on his forehead. The grotesque monster Glenn uses his Dia skill and Alina is ready to intercept him, but he instead teleports in front of a terrified Lulu Lee. Lo steps in front to protect her and Glenn punts him high into the sky. Lo lands on the ground face first in the dirt. Lulu runs to go protect her romantic interest and receives an upper gut punch from Hell, with her also landing face first in the dirt. Jade and Alina look at their party members, not believing they already got knocked out by one punch. Jade does believe that Glenn can still be saved, seeing as he didn't kill Lulu and Lo when he definitely could have. They need to retrieve the core entirely without destroying it, and if they can't, he'll be gone forever. Jade knows that he'll be the next target as Glenn is going in order from the weakest. So instead, he charges forward with his sword, but Glenn immediately starts to disrespect him like he's your little cousin, dropping him to his knees, then leaving him face first on the ground. He then moves on to Alina, with her having too slow of a reaction time. By the time he's about to finish her, Jade gets back up to protect her. He manages to grab his attention long enough to know that Glenn is still inside. Glenn begins to crush Jade's skull, but it's not enough to hurt him as Jade activates his skill, Sigurth Beast. Lulu wakes up and activates her own skill, Futore. Behind him, Lo yells Ignis, using a fire spell. Still, this isn't enough to take Glenn down, but it does momentarily slow him down. When Jade opens his eyes, they change color, signaling a transformation. When Glenn goes to attack him, Jade now manages to dodge all his attacks. Glenn recognizes that his eyes now overlap and let him see the present and future. Jade agrees this is the case, as such a power boost comes with a downside. Only with the help of Lulu can he keep this transformation and not go insane. Glenn swings his sword, and Jade can perfectly see the direction Glenn's body is going, dodging his attack. Lo helps out by attacking with ice shards. It doesn't do any damage, but manages to camouflage Alina's position. The girl goes fourth Raikaji mode and knocks Glenn back. But while he's dazed, Alina keeps the pressure on, as she doesn't know how to stop. With it getting so bad, Glenn must use his Chronos skill, Stopping Time. With her like this, he goes for the killing blow, calling her a fool. But like before, her raw power shatters time. The Dark God Glenn can't believe that she has the power to defy fate. Alina tells him that he better go back to being Glenn, otherwise she will eliminate him. The dark god Glenn tries to reason with her, saying he only needs one more try, asking to eat all the souls of the humans here to bring back Lynn. He even tries to reason with her that he could bring back the man she lost all those years ago, but Alina declines. As to her, the dead shouldn't be brought back. She goes a step further, scolding him for holding on to the past so much, as all he seems to think about is his daughter, acting like he doesn't have any good memories in the present, doing his daughter's death a disservice, as she should have taught him something, how to value a human life. But most of all, what angers her is he's forgotten his promise to set her free from working overtime, destroying his arm and freeing him from the power of the dark god. The next day, Alina is buried in work. Jade comes by to inform her that Glenn woke up. For the past week, Alina has done nothing but work overtime. The secretary comes by to get the group and thank Alina for saving the guildmaster. In the room, Glenn lays on his hospital bed asking why they didn't end in him like he wanted, as he feels like he has nothing to live for. The group tries to talk him out of it, but eventually Alina can't take it and tells him to stop being a big baby. As the two of them made an agreement, she won't allow him to die until he fulfills her wish. Glenn is reminded of this and jumps back as she can't believe he really thought he'd get to this world without helping her. The others think this is an overreaction as they expected a more serious tone, but Alina doesn't care. He doesn't get to just go home after being hurt a little bit while she has paperwork to do. She lets him go, and Jade wants to know more about the Dark God's core and who got him involved in all this. Glenn warns him that an even greater calamity would be woken up if they get involved. Just as he's about to reveal who's behind all of this, he gets a headache or cramp. Lulu Lee tries to revive him. He clutches his heart but is unable to remember who got him involved in all of this. Later, Silver Swords meets up, believing that all this time someone was just using the Guildmaster for their own scheme. Alina walks over to interrupt them as they aren't doing anything but chatting. Silver Sword tries to reason they're strategizing in order to save the world. Alina tells them that the world can wait, as if they want her services to help. She's going to use them to help her eliminate overtime, with each one of them getting a share of her work. Still, after all that, more papers come in with vowing to slay that person and be free of her overtime once and for all.